Well, good day, viewers. Today we have a 2011 Toyota Tacoma. It's got the 4-cylinder and the performance intake. And it's here because the customer reported the temperature gauge cycling into the overheat condition, loss of heat out of the heater, and a rapid change in the temperature. He sent me pictures of the temperature gauge right in the red. No external coolant leaks that I can see. So based on his description of the temperature gauge rising and then losing heat out of the heater and then a rapid descent of the temperature, I think he's got a head gasket issue. Got 248,000 kilometers on it roughly. I see the check engine light is on, so I'm going to scan it and see what codes it has to offer. I'm going to let it run for a little while. The cooling system is down slightly in the rad, but overfilled in the overflow bottle, but I don't want to top it off because I'm going to do a cylinder head leak check. Let's scan this thing. So I've already ID'd the vehicle. As I said, it's a 2011 Tacoma. I think I can scan it with it running, so I'm going to give it a try. Engine coolant temperature, circuit low input. Well, the voltage goes low because it gets hot. Temperature sensor is negative temperature coefficient, and it has a catalyst efficiency code. Catalyst efficiency code. Catalyst efficiency code. Anti-lock brakes is complaining because of the engine control code. Let's look at freeze frame data for the engine code. I'm going to go into the engine system and look at freeze frame data and see if it's got that code. It's got the catalyst efficiency code. That's not going to help me. Damn, that's the trouble. It stores only the last emission related fault code that's set or changed. Stores the freeze frame for that, so I was curious to see what the coolant temperature reading was at the time of the low temperature sensor voltage. As the temperature goes up, the voltage goes down. This stores like 5 frames of data. But again, this is the P0420 code, so this thing likely needs a catalytic converter as well. Coolant temperature 125 Celsius, 126, 125, 126, 125, which is unusually high. It should be around 100, 90 to 100. Well, I'm going to save this. So this is what I'm going to use to check for combustion gases in the radiator. And I've got a U-View leak tester fluid. Originally it's blue, and when you draw the fumes from the radiator through it, if it turns yellow or green, that indicates the presence of combustion gases in the cooling system. So let's get set up. You get the trouble light here. Of course, it may only leak it when it gets hot at high speeds. Just based on his description of the problem with the temperature cycling rapidly, going into the overheat condition when it's running down the highway at cruising speeds, I think he's got a likely head gasket problem. still blue. I'm going to try running it at a higher RPM. I got the throttle block partially with the stick. It's been about 5 minutes now. The thermostat isn't open yet. Make sure that the steam coming out of it. I think he's just got a thermostat problem with temperature gauges in the red and the lower rad hose is cold. So there's no signs of combustion gases in the cooling system, so we're going to change the thermostat on this thing and see what happens. That fluid is nice and blue, but the temperature gauge is right up into the red. Show you on the dash, and the radiator hoses are cold. Let's put a thermostat in it. So there's a new thermostat and O-ring, and I'm going to change the radiator cap too, because I've had radiator caps that don't hold pressure correctly and cause a problem with boiling in the cooling system. Now the thermostat itself lives under the power steering pump, and I'm not sure if there's another gasket that we need. That cover, well, we're going to take the hose off and see what kind of coolant comes out of it. So there's the housing cleaned up. Now there is a gasket on there as well as the O-ring around the thermostat, and the thermostat has a jiggle pin. I'll show you what the old one looks like. I got the new one in there already. It's to let the air bubbles out, this thing, and it must go up, facing up. Now this thermostat's pretty sticky when I push it open, so I'm hoping that the thermostat was stuck. It was low on coolant as well, but that could be expected if it's overheating and boiling. So let's get this together. So I've got the cooling system refilled, and I'm monitoring engine coolant, initial coolant temperature of 20.6 and current coolant temperature of 20. And we're going to start it up. And we're going to monitor the coolant temperature as it warms up, and see what temperature the thermostat opens at. So it's been running for about 5 to 7 minutes now, and it's coming up to 62 degrees Celsius. We got the throttle blocked open. It's running at 1200 RPM. We're going to purge the air out of it. So it's been about 15 minutes. Got good heat out of the heater, so I'm pretty sure that the cooling system is full. Got the rad cap on now. We're hitting 77 Celsius. I think the thermostat is 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which I believe is about 82 Celsius. So we should see it open around 80 to 85, and then temperature drop down again. Right now we're at 79. So Let's see what happens. So we seem to be plateaued around 83, 84. The upper rad hose is starting to warm up. And I think it just opened. It dropped to 83. So you can see the upper rad hose is about 155, 150 degrees. And the lower rad hose is roughly 96. It's starting to circulate now, and it's stabilized at about 84 Celsius. This is a reverse flow system, so it flows out of the upper rad hose into the top of the rad, through the rad, and into the lower rad hose through the thermostat. So the thermostat's on the return side. We're going to take this thing for a road test on the highway and watch the temperatures. So that's cruising on the highway for about 10-15 minutes now. The temperature gauge is rock steady in the middle. According to the scanner, it's 83 Celsius. I got the AC on now because it's warm outside, but there was good heat coming out of the heater. We're going to drive it for a few more miles and make sure that this thing is okay. Then put it up in the air and have a look, see if there's any leaks. So we're back at the shop. Temperature gauge stayed rock steady in the middle. According to the scanner, maximum temperature reached at any time was 88, and that was when we were in the shop idling. Now it's stabilized at about 86, 87, as you can see. Runs good. I'm going to lift it up and have a look, make sure there's no coolant leaks. I drove it for about 20 minutes, roughly 25 kilometers. So I opened the hood and I hear this hissing noise, and it's coming from the rad tank. So the rad tank is leaking on the passenger side just below the radiator hose. I sprayed some super clean on it and it was bubbling. There's no pressure in the cooling system anymore. You can actually hear it hissing when I squeeze the hose. So this thing needs a rad, but fortunately I don't think it did any head gasket issues. Yeah, let's put a rad in it and we'll call it a day.